Hello everyone, this is my presentation on Paul Kagame, whom I think is Rwanda's benevolent autocrat. A little background information on Rwanda. It is a country located centrally in Africa with a population of 12.7 million, with a total land area that is slightly smaller than the state of Maryland, and a life expectancy of around 65 to 67 years. Rwanda also has a literacy rate of 73.2%, with their official main languages being Kinyarwanda and French and English. And the main ethnic groups there are Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa. And you all may be familiar with the Rwandan genocide that occurred in 1994, where the ethnic majority Hutus led a mass genocide massacre on the ethnic minority Tutsis, who had control of the state and most of the wealth during that time. And a little background on Paul Kagame. He grew up as a Tutsi refugee in Uganda and studied at a university in Kampala, which is the capital city of Uganda. He then joined the rebel forces of Museveni, who overthrew the Ugandan president Obote in 1986. He also became Museveni's chief of intelligence and gained a reputation for incorruptibility and severity in imposing stringent behavior codes. Kagame came to power in 2000 as a military leader of the Rwandan Patriotic Front, after he helped topple oppressive governments in Rwanda, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. He also helped defeat Hutu extremists to end the Rwandan genocide in 1994. He was first officially elected to president in 2003, and then again in 2010, and then again in 2017, with landslide victories for all three elections. However, the U.S. State Department has described the 2017 election as having irregularities. He is Rwanda's fourth and current president. As to the nature of the Rwandan government, the government type is listed as presidential republic, but it is categorized by the Democracy Index as authoritarian. Elections are held by simple majority vote, in which presidents have a 5-year term and are eligible for a second term. A recent constitutional amendment that was approved had reduced the presidential term from 7 to 5 years, but it also included an exception that allowed President Kagame to serve a third 7-year term in 2017. And he was also eligible to serve 2 additional 5-year terms, which theoretically enables him to hold office until 2034. Under his rule, Kagame has achieved many things for Rwanda. He stimulated growth of about 8% in the economy every year since 2000. He also reduced inflation and embraced an expansionary fiscal policy that reduced poverty by improving education, building more infrastructure like airports and roads, and encouraging foreign and domestic investment in Rwanda. He has also championed women's rights by hosting the 2019 Global Gender Summit and employing many female lawmakers. He also champions and encourages environmental protections by adapting eco-friendly measures in the infrastructure of the country, and he also supports technological advancements and is active on social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Flickr. Again, to attest to Rwanda's success story are the country's impressive indicators. The country's murder rate is relatively low at 2.5 per 100,000 people compared to the US's 5.4, which makes Rwanda a pretty safe country to travel to. On the least corrupt country ranking, it ranks at a 48, which is only lower than Botswana, a much richer country in Africa, which rates at 34. The country's real GDP growth rate is at 7.6%, and Rwanda is the 15th fastest growing economy in the world. Rwanda is also in the 40th percentile for the Political Stability Index, with the sub-Saharan average being much lower at 31, and the country that President Kagame wants to model Rwanda after, which is Singapore, is at the 99th percentile. Rwanda scores very high in the Ease of Doing Business Index from the World Bank at 29, with Singapore scoring at the top two. And Rwanda's foreign investment is at $293 million in 2017. So again, President Kagame has said multiple times that he aspires for Rwanda to have the same success as Singapore. And so he focuses on three aspects that Singapore also focused on, which is geographic centrality, political stability, and ease of doing business. The similarities between Singapore and Rwanda also are at the government level. In Singapore, it is said that they have a paternalistic rule, but not quite an authoritarian government. Singapore ranks at 66 in the Democracy Index, making it a flawed democracy. And the country also has limitations on freedoms of speech, assembly, and press, as indicated by a ban on chewing gum to keep the streets of Singapore clean. And the country is also known for the liberty for prosperity mindset. In Rwanda, the country ranks at 128 in the Democracy Index, making it fall cleanly into the authoritarian category. The country also has severe limitations on freedoms and rights, as shown by the ban on single-use plastics and plastic bags, as well as a severely enforced community cleaning day at the end of every month, on the last Saturday at the end of every month, called Umuganda. And it also is considered a police state. Under Kagame, the freedoms of speech, assembly, and press have also been severely restricted, where citizens or any visiting journalists are not able to criticize the regime without being punished. Again, there's a severe oppression of free speech and press, and Kagame has also been accused of arranging assassinations of his political opponents, and as well as independent and dissident journalists. As an iron grip autocrat, he may be ruling based on fear and tyranny, but he claims that this is to prevent hate speech and more bloodshed. In an attempt to find out whether Paul Kagame is truly a benevolent autocrat, I have referred to the Easterly article, the explanation 1 of the individual version of the benevolent autocrat theory, in which he says that leaders don't matter under democracy, but very good or very bad autocratic leaders can produce very high or very low growth rates respectively. And on this, Kagame has made a huge impact on reviving and accelerating Rwanda's economy as an autocrat. In reference to the Rizzio and Scully article, they say that truly benevolent, growth-positive autocrats are rare, but as you can see here, President Kagame has shown that he was not susceptible to corruption through bribery or other means, and he has single-mindedly pursued economic development to push the country forward. And the article also says that benevolent autocrats may just be riding the wave or being at the right place at the right time, where growth had started in a term before the autocrat came into power. This would not be true in Kagame's case because he rose to power in 1994 at the end of the Rwandan genocide, where the country was in extreme political and economic upheaval. So the economic prosperity and growth can be clearly credited to Kagame's efforts. Some concerns for his leadership is that he may not be able to find a successor that can continue his growth efforts for the country, seeing as he stated that he does not intend to be an internal leader. Other concerns is that the growth may not be sustainable, seeing that Rwanda is still one of the poorest countries in the world, where the average resident only earns about $750 per year. And other concerns that have been addressed in this presentation is that human rights groups have accused Kagame of several unethical doings, and the growth of the country has also been accused of being manipulated or inflated. A true concern is that the dissent within the country of Kagame's rule may become bottled up after a period of time and may lead to the explosion of violence. But truly, what matters is how do Rwandans feel of Kagame's rule, and if they feel that they have increased the conditions of their living conditions, or they have felt that they're, especially lower class Rwandans, feel that they have been left behind, while the middle and upper class have benefited more from the growth. It's really up to the Rwandans to decide whether this leadership has benefited them. But in conclusion, I would say Kagame is not perfect, but he has done more good than bad to Rwanda. And to refer back to the Singapore mindset of liberty for prosperity, Kagame has aspects of both a visionary and a tyrant, but he is spearheading prosperity. And hopefully from the increased wealth, it will also lead to an increase in civil society and the middle class, which will call for more rights and freedoms and may lead to a democracy. But of course, in the beginning, a democracy was not possible in Rwanda's case, possibly because of the political unrest and low trust in government since the Rwandan genocide. But in conclusion, I would think Paul Kagame is a benevolent autocrat for Rwanda. And these are my references. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and now to turn it to you, what do you think? Is Paul Kagame a benevolent autocrat or not?